Guys, it's me. I'm back.
What's up, party people?
We're like, Mads, come on. All right, this show is taking a turn for the.
What's up, Chris?
What's up, Raphie? We're here. It's Wednesday. It's live. It's time to go. I think we're missing somebody. What's up with that?
Well, we sent out a couple surveys. Some were part of the live in the last couple of weeks, and others were email. And the MONSTERBASS faithful, they voted and weighed in, and we listened. No more Rick. We heard you loud and clear. So it's it's the Chris and Raphie show. I'm comfortable giving you top billing.
All right.
The only thing, though,
that's
a little bit unsettling about this is that Rick's seat is still warm. I don't know what to make of it.
The spirit of Rick lives on. You look good there, by the way, with the wheel behind you. You're in the spot. You're ready to roll. I'll tell you, I know Rick is on a quest in the desert. I think there's peyote involved. He's living on dates. He's got no shoes. He's on the soul search. So Rick is out there aligning with the future of MONSTERBASS. So I think we might let him back in here in a couple of weeks. But I do know next week already, you guys may be on a plane to the Classic, but we'll get to all that later.
We definitely will be on a plane to the Classic.
Yeah, we're activation, a booth, MONSTERBASS booth at the Classic. Somebody's life's going to be changed in the world of bass fishing. But hey, that's future show. We'll talk about that. We got tonight. We got a good show.
Well, it's funny, though, that you mentioned the Classic, and I know that there's going to be a lot of the things that you just said, but all I'm thinking about is like Matt Brown and his duck pastrami.
Duck pastrami. I've heard there's moonshine.
I've been thinking about duck pastrami for like the last 6 months since
it's like we're going to the Classic. No, we're going to go and sample duck pastrami. You guys have some stuff lined up. I know there's going to be tons of fun. MONSTERBASS crew is uniting at the Classic. That's going to be a blast. I'll tell you, I'm jealous. Just going to throw it out there. A little bit jealous, but somebody's going to probably be back here running a show. It's going to be fun. We'll I think look forward to the updates.
Yeah, and I think next week's going to be a great one for you, just as far as being on air, getting it all to yourself. But tell me a little bit about the guests that we have queued up, because I know that this is somebody that I think you have a little bit, like, you met him a couple times, right? And and he's got a little vibe that's near and dear to
he's got a vibe. We're gonna start some competition here against the boat community and kayak community. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So I'll tell you, 12-year-old Chris, going back to fishing. When I was fishing when I was a kid, I'd fish on little boats down at like a duck club that my stepdad, his father, so as a grandpa, we called him Bompy. We'd go out in these little aluminum boats and we'd kind of high stick around and throwing baits for bass. But I was up at scout camp a lot as a 12-year-old, paddling a canoe and would paddle around this pond in the upper Sierras and catching brook trout. Really heavily into paddleboard racing and events, moving into my 20s, 30s, announcing events. I was always fishing off of some type of watercraft. Didn't matter. I was a outrigger paddler, an outrigger canoe, a Hawaiian canoe. I'd fish off those. Got into tournament kayak fishing on a stand-up paddleboard. If you can imagine a board that was an inflatable designed specifically for fishing. They called it the Fish Stalker. I was fishing on this thing. It was an inflatable. It had double pontoon. So it was kind of like my pontoon boat, but a miniature version that was inflatable.
Oh, that makes sense for stability. Because all I know is that at Bass Lake, I take these little inflatable stand-up paddleboards out, and like one wake and I'm in the water.
You're a kite. You're flying. But no, this thing was made to be stable. I would fish out there. I was in the Delta. How my introduction to kayak fishing went is I was doing really good in a tournament, and it was like 20-mile-an-hour winds. I was using a dumbbell with a string for my anchor and doing good. I met a guy that was Native Watercraft's rep, and he's like, hey, there's these things you can sit in and you can pedal and you can focus on fishing. I'm like, what are you talking about? I went to his house and I borrowed 2 demo boats and I never gave them back. It was just kind of a cool introduction like 10 years ago into the world of kayak fishing. So I jumped into this head on and started kayak fishing, my local lake, tournaments, going all over, traveling. Such a cool opportunity to connect with the water. And then I met this guy, and he's got an entire thing. He calls it Yak Tribe. And so it's funny how you unite people into these segments. So we got fishing, saltwater, freshwater. We got bass fishing. Now we got kayak bass fishing that has just gone crazy with tournaments all over. And this guy, Heath, and I want to make sure I get his last name correctly. Okay. So I know we mess this up, but Heath Panganiban, and he can explain it later, but Heath founded Yak Tribe. And I'm just going to tell you, he's got a bus. You know anything about people that live in buses? You seen like the schoolie movement of buying a bus and living in a school bus?
I mean, I know things about them.
Okay. All right. So van life, like, so I grew up my parents bought a bus and we converted it to a motorhome and traveled back and forth to California, to Texas. And we'd go through the Grand Canyon. We were like the Partridge Family, but Heath has done something similar. So he's got his schoolie that he's turned into a mobile tackle shop. So I cannot wait to talk to him. He's the founder of Yak Tribe. As I mentioned, they put on events. They bring an entire community together out in Florida, whether they're bass fishing or they're inshore fishing. He supports them with the gear. He knows all about kayaks. So I'm just excited to start the conversation to get him on here. There's no reason to wait anymore. Is Heath ready? Let's bring him in.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me tonight.
What's up, Heath?
What up?
How did Chris do with your last name?
Dude, he spot on. And if I can say, spot on for a white guy, you know.
Nice.
Very good. And I can say that. Let me just say, before everyone gets all freaked out, I'm half white, half Filipino, and there's two ways to say my name. The way my mom says it, who's Irish, full Irish, man, she says Panganiban. My dad, who's born and raised Philippines native, it's Panganiban. So, Chris, great job, man.
I did my homework. So Panganiban, I wanted to make sure. I'd announce a lot of events. I ruin a million people's names and get 2 or 3 right. And I want to make sure I got your name right. So welcome to the show.
Thank
I
you.
know kayaking is like your passion. And let's just jump right into this. Where did you get your connection to kayak fishing?
Yeah, man. So growing up, I was always just fishing in general. Like I said, half my family is from the Philippines. I'm first generation here. But I just grew up always with my grandfather, fishing, the Skyway, the piers. And one day my dad had gotten like this cheap yellow kind of Lifetime kayak. And we just got on it. We didn't really like even set out to catch fish. I was like 8 years old and we got on this little tandem kayak and we pulled up to underneath the bridge and my dad just starts like smashing these oysters off of the bridges and sheep's head just start like coming up, you know? And I was just like, oh, this is insane. This is crazy. So we caught a sheep's head and yeah, that pretty much like started my kayak fishing interest and yeah, it just kind of grew from there.
That's awesome. And I mean, those are amazing eating. If you know anything about sheep's head, that's like a prize coveted fish. That's awesome. Raphie, jump in here. I know you're a big time kayak angler and you love this, right?
Well, yeah. So little known fact, but this is where I got kind of confused is that I was part of the Yak Tribe when I was in college. But imagine my confusion when I realized that we were talking about kayaks and in college it was something different. Actually, we didn't call it the Yak Tribe. We just called it, it was the meter. And you would take the worst part about getting blind drunk, which is throwing up. And then each night or each weekend or whatever, we would have the puke-o-meter. And we would everyone would just shout out that they metered and we had like some note taker that would, just each semester there, the person who puked the most won. So
Yeah, that's fun.
that might be the only experience that I have, but it was,
the
It's
porcelain
really
god,
the
like
Yak Tribe.
praying to the porcelain god. So
Yeah.
I do know though, Raphie, you said that you have kayaked. I want to make sure that you
All right,
probably have
so-
some core memories. Like tie in this is what this is about.
well,
is
so
your
that's
connection
so that's
to
my
water.
that's
You got
my
it.
big question though. Is the Yak Tribe specifically about like kayak fishing, or doesn't matter? Like ocean kayak, whitewater rafting, kayaks out on the lake on this like kind of kayak that you sit on top of. Like,
Man.
If you've
Whether
kayaked,
if you're on the water and you're in one of those plastic vessels, man, they even got ones that aren't plastic. They've got inflatable kayaks. They got sit on top. They got fiberglass ones, man. Even if you don't fish off of the kayak, if you kayak in general, if that's the means by which you connect with nature or fishing, I mean, you're pretty much part of Yak Tribe. So
All right, then I'm definitely part of the Yak Tribe.
go.
You're in.
Yeah, from
All right,
from ocean kayaking to lake, to Bass Lake primarily, where I'm not fishing for bass.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
No, and that's why I wanted to bring this up to set the standard, because we have all these things of, I think it's fun in the world that we live in is we're all in a comparison. It's a competition. And it's, for me, it's like, it's not better or worse, but I do want to touch on some of that, but it's just a different engagement. It's a different way to connect with water. I posted today on Instagram, I fish off kayaks. I fished off dinghies. I fished off inflatable rafts. I fished off a lot of paddle boards. I mentioned the outrigger, the canoes. As long as you're outside, you're connected to water. I've gone a lot of times with my family, and I have been pedaling, towing my children. I posted a picture of my daughter was pedaling me. I'm standing on the front of a boat, just being outside together. I think that's part of the Yak Tribe. Tell me, when did the Yak Tribe get born? Like, what's your idea behind Yak Tribe? Tell us what that is.
Yeah, man. So first off, I just want to say I'm seeing people in the comments, and we got some Yak Tribe guys in here right now. So thanks, guys, for being
Heck
here.
yeah.
Yak Tribe started in 2015, man, and it's the craziest thing. We went to ICAST in 2015, and that's when I was like, real green in the industry and just excited about everything. Still am excited about everything. But
Good save.
if you've ever been to ICAST, and Chris, I've met you there, so I know you've been. Raphie, you'll be there this year. But here's the general thing that goes on at ICAST. Okay, if we're just being super honest. There's people there, there's influencers there, there's retailers there, but then all of our biggest, fishing brands are there. They fly in from China, Japan, and all over the US. They're all over the world. They come to the Orlando Convention Center every July. And so I went in 2015, and to be honest with you, I went as a brand ambassador under Yak Gear, and I walked away and I was just like, good Lord, I hate the fishing industry. This is horrible. I was like, I didn't like my experience. I didn't really like my experience at all, because it just kind of seemed like, and I'm not trying to throw hate here. I'm getting through it, but it kind of just seemed like everyone was kind of on their own thing. It was a lot of competition, who had the most followers, who had the coolest stuff, and I just saw like a disconnect in terms of like, there was a lot of talking happening, but there wasn't like real friendships and relationships really happening. And so you'll see that if you go to ICAST. It's a great event, but you kind of really got to get around for a while before you build those relationships. And so I kind of walked away from it. I was like, man, if this is what the fishing industry looks like, where it's just, I've got the better this, I've got the better that, I have more followers than you here and there, then I want to create something that it's just like super chill, where everyone's welcome, where it's just, if you fish, and if you fish out of a kayak like I do, let's be friends. So I started Yak Tribe in 2015. And since then, we spent 4 years from like 2017 to 2021 living in our RV full time, going from Florida to Cali, all up north, all around Texas, everywhere, just doing Yak Tribe meetups, growing the Yak Tribe community, just trying to take the concept of what social media tries to do, which is like build community, fellowship, friendships, whatever, and take it off of the screen and do it in real life, because like that's more important.
Was there a moment when you're traveling? I had been to ICAST. I think I went in 21, and they nicknamed it iCovid because everyone got COVID. Or it might have been
I was there.
or it might have been 22. I forget.
Super spreaders, way to go.
It was a super spreader, and it was pretty small, but everyone was, to your point, it wasn't like a big warm and fuzzy fishing community. It was everyone kind of trying to size each other up, like friend or foe, connection or competition, and I don't think that that's dissimilar from other industries in general, but it is kind of interesting because I know that fishing is just like connection based. And so when you have this connection based hobby, sport, activity, and then you meet other people that share that same connection, when you're just sort of sizing them up and trying to like beat them at the conversation, it gets a little weird. But I love the fact that you were traveling around for a bunch of years building up Yak Tribe. Was there ever like a moment where you kind of looked around and you're like, wait a minute, I think this is pretty successful?
Yeah. I'll tell you actually. So there was a moment where I was like, exactly what you're saying. I kind of like brought my head up from the grind, and I was like, wait, I think what we're doing is like, it's working. We were always doing a bunch of things before we hit the road. We were doing meetups, kayak giveaways, a lot of things for like law enforcement. Yak Tribe is all about giving back to our people, right? To the community. And so there's initiatives and things that we would do. And I would see kayak fishermen come and they'd rally behind it. So let's say somebody had cancer or something, or someone's mom died, and they're a Yak Tribe member, and it's like I could see on their posts like they weren't being able to afford it, this and that. It's crazy. In like 2015, I'd just write a little status. I'd say, hey, Yak Tribe, we got another Yak Tribe member. His dad died. Here's a little, link. All the money goes directly to him. And things were paid for. Cancer treatments were paid for. All these different things were paid for. And I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. Yak Tribe rallying behind Yak Tribe members. So then I was like, man, let's see if we can't make this grow and like do more stuff like this. And so when we got on the road, I remember we did one of our first big meetups in Louisiana, and it was at Pat Kayak Rentals. And I was super worried about it. I was scared. I was like, man, I hope people come out. I really hope people come out. I know everyone's on social media and they're all, we support the tribe and everything, but I really don't want to put this whole thing on and no one come out. And I walked out of my trailer the day of the event of my camper, and there were almost 100 people there in their kayaks.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I was blown away. I was like, when did you guys show up? Because you weren't here when I went to bed last night. And that's when it kind of clicked for me. I was like, whoa, people are traveling from Florida, from Texas, from Pennsylvania, Alabama, all over to Colorado, just to this one little spot. I think Yak Tribe is being somewhat effective. So yeah, man, it was a crazy thing for our family to see that.
And I mean, I'll second that. That's awesome, because it's just an interesting piece where I was on the outside like you and working with kayaks, and just as a point of access, my family were on paddle boards, kayaks, all these things, fishing. All these tournaments started to pop up. KBF came around out here in California of Yakabass. And then to see what's happened over the 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and then to see the big names in fishing and BASS and everyone else actually go backwards and say, oh, yeah, this has been developed. This is awesome. Well, hey, by the way, we're going to include kayak bass fishing in our successful tournament trails. That's kind of like the accolades that you see at the end of like, okay, now that they did all the hard work and they did what was needed to grow the sport, it's really cool that those platforms exist, but understanding where they were built was people like yourself and these local communities of it's an interesting concept of where for a while, and this is what I want to get into today, is it was a bunch of guys that just had boats that would just go paddle around. Before pedals were really a thing, it was all a paddle sport. I brought a paddle because this is kind of like the birthplace of even like my fish socks. I was so excited about paddles. I got a paddle company to take a bass and take a photo that I gave it to them, and they made my paddle for my paddleboard look like my fish. And this was pre-motors and pre-graphs really on kayaks. And we wanted to have a discussion, and I work with Kayak City out here. They're talking about making kayaks that are $25,000, $30,000 before they roll out of the door. Tell me, like, your involvement, was it a lot about of just having a sport that anybody has access to? You talk about your dad's kayak, and even like Raphie mentioned, Ocean Kayak, the brand. I think it's something special to have a sport that you can, whether you go to a big box store, Costco, you go on Facebook Marketplace, you grab something for $150, $200, and you can go and participate. I think having that access and equity is super important in the world of kayaking. Tell me what your thought is on that before we get into the crazy expensive kayaks.
Yeah. Kayak fishermen are a different breed of people. And what we're seeing is like you said, we'll get to that conversation. So let me start here. Kayak fishing, not everyone can do it. Not everyone wants to do it because there are different things like preconceived notions that people would say, oh man, they tip over really easy, or, you can't go very far, or you'll get tired. Or
are you able to see the chat? Like, it's fun because we have this whole live podcast, so it's fun. So Redneck Archaeology, to me, yak fishing is synonymous with swimming and losing tackle.
Exactly. I
that
saw
can
that.
happen. Oh, it's fun.
Exactly.
And keep
Yeah.
going with it. But that's when we're doing a podcast for people that are logged in and listening to us later, whether it's Apple Podcasts or whatever. It's fun to bring to note the feedback we're getting from that chat and then your own personal experience. You do have a lot of preconceived notions that maybe, am I too big for a kayak, or what can we do out there?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
back in
a lot of that.
2015, back in 2015, there was very few models. I mean, you had your Hobies, of course. And that was like the top of the chain, man. If you were in a Hobie, you were like basically in a Lamborghini. And there was nothing, absolutely nothing that was even close. Of course, they had the patents on their drives and different things like that. But I will say that kayak fishermen, it's a different mentality of person as well, because let me just say this: whether you put a motor on your kayak, whether you put, I know guys that have 3 fish finders on their kayak who tournament fish. The thing is this:
Are they forward facing?
right? That's a whole debate as well right now, which I'm down to hop in that one later. But my thing is that right now, kayak fishing has always been a grind. And there are some people who like that grind, who it takes a little bit more effort than to hop on your boat and to run the lines and to run up and down the flats, or, the just wherever you're fishing. And that's why I always say this: kayak fishermen catch more fish than people who fish in a boat. And it's
you did it. You did it, Raphie. I love it.
It is. We 100%, okay, catch more fish than people who fish out of boat. And I'll give you reasons why I believe that if you're interested.
I'm gonna
forget about viewers. Forget about viewers. We just lost about 7,000 subscribers.
That's fine. Going to Yak Tribe. That's because they're going to Yak Tribe. So, here's the deal: when you're in a boat, okay, so you buy a boat, and I saw someone in here who said, if a kayak's $30,000, James said, if a kayak's $30,000, it's not a kayak. James, I'm starting to warm up to the idea to say, like, dude, you're kind of right. Kayaks should not cost that much. I'm very upset at the fact that after Hobie's patents lifted, everyone's coming out with all these kayaks and they're charging COVID prices when we're not in COVID anymore. And we're not having as many manufacturing issues that we had, and we're not having the same amount of material cost increase that we had as bad. And so it's like, we don't actually have to charge 6, 7, 8 grand for a kayak. We really don't. Like, you can still price that kayak out and still make a great profit at 4 grand, 5 grand. It doesn't have to go all the way up to 8. But let me back up.
I was going to say, sounds like Yak Tribe's going to be bringing out some new cost-effective. But keep going.
No, but I have some kayaks in mind that I'm very, very happy with, who are doing it the right way, like Lightning Kayak. I mean, they are coming out and they're giving you a kayak that's cost-effective, that doesn't break the bank, that does the same thing and does a great job at catching fish. So here's why I think kayak fishermen catch more fish than regular boat fishermen.
Let's go.
So when you get your boat, okay, you get your boat, no matter where you came from, whether you came from a kayak, a canoe, you finally got your boat. You got your boat, you trailer it, you hop in the water. The first thing you do is you turn it on and you just start going. You just go to the spot that you think has the fish. So you have your honey hole, you start fishing that thing, and you're like, man, no bites here. Peace out. Going across the lake. You go over there, no bites here. You go 4 miles this way, and you're just turning and burning, passing up all the monsters that were there. If you would just relax. They're probably there or close by. And so kayak fishermen have they read the water better. One, because they're in the water, so they're really close to it. They can read the ripples, and they can read kind of wakes and all of those things a lot better from when you're higher up, just kind of watching things happen. Second, you are kind of forced, and I get we have motors and pedals and all those things, but you're not going to just pick up in a second and go 45 miles per hour to the other side. That's just not happening. Right. And so you really are forced to comb out these areas. So you start kind of looking for a second, because you're like, man, if I pick up and move and need to go 2 miles, I mean, that's an effort. That's 30 minutes. That's 40 minutes to do that. So let me just double check all the structure. Let me check the docks. Let me check the grass. Let me check the drop offs. Let me check the flats. Let me check all of these things. And you really, truly start to learn these areas better. And you start seeing, like, I've fished tournaments against boats, and I have seen boats jet off and I catch a fish that they were looking for. And so anyways, let me open the floor back to you guys. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, and Chris, I'll let you go in a second. I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Because maybe there's a level of imposed patience that you need to have, and then
That's
also
right.
a level of, and let's face it, I've driven in a car before, and I've ridden a bike before down the same streets. And riding a bike down the same streets is a completely different experience, where you feel a lot closer to the community, a lot closer to the road, unfortunately, a lot closer to the cars that cut you off trying to get to the McDonald's drive-through before breakfast ends.
Right.
That's exactly how I was going to say, that's exactly how kayak anglers view bass boats as they fly by.
Yeah.
So
I would have,
perfect,
it's
We
funny.
don't even
perfect
call them
analogy.
bass
Yeah.
boats.
But by that,
We
what do you
don't
call them?
them bass boats. We call them glitter boats.
Yeah,
Glitter
so,
boats.
yeah, we had Metal Flake Marvin on, my buddy, that he makes the bait. He calls it's pretty funny. He teases about the glitter on the boats, the Metal Flake and the bass boats. They're on their way super fast to go somewhere else. So
I
you're
feel
right on.
like if it doesn't exist, there needs to be an Instagram account that's just called Glitter Boats, and like, let's see what happens. But he, judging by that logic, right, the progression of patience, studying the water, studying the ripples, kind of like really understanding the terrain, because you're there for much longer. By that logic, like, then bank anglers really probably crush the game, beat kayaks and boats, right?
I would say there are times that I'm fishing where I'm like, oh man, I could have just got this off the bank, because I used to do a lot of pond hopping, a lot of wading. When my wife and I were dating, I'd get a little Intech, one of those little blow up rafts, and I tie it around my waist, and she'd lay in there, and I just go wade and catch fish. But unfortunately, still, even though I see, like, I might pass a spot like that, I'm getting to spots that these bank fishermen can't get to, which kind of leads me to one of my main points on why I truly believe, like, and by the way, like, guys, I fished out of a boat many times. A lot of my homies fish out of a boat. So I love it, man. I do love the boat fishermen and all that stuff. But
Hey, Heath, didn't you have a boat for a while? You said you had a
I
boat.
did. Yeah. I had a boat for a while. That was nice. I bring my wife out in that, and I just wasn't catching as much fish because there was more management. It was more managing the boat, more managing all the drift and everything that went into it. Where when you're in a kayak, you are completely in control, especially if you're in a pedal kayak. The whole time you're just pedaling and fishing and moving and making micro adjustments. And you can do that with things like spot locks and trolling motors. And so I'm not knocking it too hard, but here's where we really have the advantage. We can get to places that boaters cannot. There's this one space about 4 minutes from my house. So 4 minutes from my house, which don't try and find out where I live, because this is a super secret spot.
Everyone's got their pen out right now.
Yeah.
One of my super secret spots. But basically it goes like this. So you launch, and there is if you look at Google Maps, there's like water all around. It's crazy, water all around. But then in the middle of the water, there's like this forest. And then in the middle of the forest is like a mile lake. Like, it's a really big lake. And inside of it, it has tarpon, redfish, and it's like an aquarium. There's just big fish everywhere.
That's awesome.
And so I do go there and make YouTube videos and stuff. Here's the thing. The only way you can get in is by kayak. You can't get a boat through there. You can't even get a John boat through there. It's too shallow. So you walk out, you got to step out of the kayak, drag that thing out. And I get to places and explore places that boaters cannot get to. And quite frankly, regular bank fishermen can't get to unless they want to go for like a 2-mile swim. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think that's a cool point where there is some accessible. I live across the street from a pond, and literally you only there's like 50 yards of frontage you can bank fish. The rest is private property. And so I just walk my inflatable kayak across the street, throw it in the pond, paddle around, catch some fish, have a blast. So I think there's that. I'll tell you my connection to kayak fishing. When you're up on a boat, and I love boat fishing for a lot of reasons as well. So I think these are fun discussions of having the foot control of a trolling motor and working down the bank. I'm really obsessed right now with punch fishing and flipping and pitching and standing up and then knowing I would have to sit down in my kayak to re-engage with the pedals. That distraction from fishing the whole time from my boat, kind of frustrating, but having my connection to kayak fishing and being in the water, oftentimes below water level, meaning you're sitting on a chair or a seat that's submerged below the deck level. That fish comes up to the side of the boat. It sees you, it flashes, it gets pissed, and it turns and drags. And it engages in interaction with the fish that I don't think you have as intimate when you're a boat angler. I do know the whole boat flipping and lifting a boat, like lifting a fish into the boat. There's something to be said about using different gear, using a lighter flex rod, engaging with the fish, bringing that fish up. I go back to my fly fishing days of using really, really lightweight rods. I'm a better bass fisherman in a boat because of what I've done in a kayak. And that's like my understanding is not so much what's better, what's worse. I think there's really good value in understanding what you can learn from kayak fishing, bringing that into a boat, what you can bring from a boat into kayak fishing. It's really cool to see some of the top pros in bass fishing get in a kayak and go and do it.
Crazy thing. Yeah. I'll never forget the day that, because I had some experience working with Mike Iaconelli, with his wife and the Ike Foundation. And so when I caught wind that he was going to be fishing out of a Hobie kayak, the first thing I thought was, I'm be honest with you. The first thing I thought was, oh no, no, we're about to have all these bass pros start fishing in kayaks. Oh no, everything's about to get way more expensive. No, but then this other part of me was like, you know what? This is amazing. This is really amazing because it's the heart of Yak Tribe. I was like, these guys are going to attract a whole new generation and demographic of people that don't know about kayak fishing. And so I was really excited and still am excited when our pros in the bass fishing world hop on over to our side. And it's really cool to see them be successful in a kayak.
No, it's intense. It's work. And you see like Carl Jacobs, all these different guys that come over. It's more of the health-minded guys that are working out and doing things. And not to say that the guys on the boat don't all work out. And that mentality, it is work to pedal a kayak. And you see him grinding. You see Iaconelli, and he has his shows where he goes and works out. It's pretty intense to deal with getting your gear. And when people talk about stuff falling in, figuring out how to place it, really an interesting thing is when you go from a boat and you're overhead casting, and then you got all your rods behind you, and then you overhead cast and you hook a rod and you throw your new rod into the water. So there's all these little learning pieces that it does suck. And like I have videos where I'm netting my wife's fish and my GoPro's on, and what I didn't know is sitting next to me was my rod, and it just fell into this water, and all of a sudden I've lost gear. And so I'm donating gear out when you're fishing, and you can't lose things. There's cool things you can tether gear, you can figure that all out, but it is a whole learning process. And that's what, like when people are talking about, oh, I'm never going to try it or whatever, learning and doing things that are hard, I think is so important. I think it's a really cool challenge. And that's, I want to go back to the whole idea of the community. I think that's the difference with Monster Bass. I think that's what goes on with this Monster Bass Live. Watching the comments and people discussing and sharing their opinions, we're all coming together to talk about fishing. It's really cool to have this discussion of, is kayak fishing better? Is it different? Is it boat fishing? Whatever. What a cool thing that you've done with this Yak Tribe. I do have some cool stuff I want to ask. Like a couple of people have asked like what boat you're on. I think to start there, like what kayak, do you spend more time in a pedal kayak? Do you still have paddle kayaks? What boats are you on and what are you fishing out of?
Yeah, man. So I actually, I don't discriminate when it comes to kayaks. So like, take it lightly, guys. When I'm talking about, kayak fishing is better than the boats. There's always going to be that beef there, because boats try and run us over, and then we try and throw rocks at. No, I'm just kidding. So, what I'm saying though is I am, yeah, I'm out of a bunch of different boats. So, I fish out of my Hobie PA, 12-foot a lot. I fish on an inflatable Sea Eagle paddleboard a lot. I fish out of a feel free that's completely for paddling. If I'm just trying to do things like hop in a little lake or throw it in this little canal and just like scope it out real quick and see like, are there fish over here? That's another thing. You can't just throw your bass boat and like behind someone's yard, if there's like a little lake there. So I have multiple different kayaks. I have a few that I put Bixby motors on. I have one that's rigged up with a actual trolling motor, the new canoe. So I'm out of a bunch of different boats because one kayak can do a lot of different things, but because I've been in the game for a while and done a lot of reviewing, I kind of come across a bunch of different boats. And so I'm blessed enough to have multiple. So if I'm going to go out with my son or one of my kids, I'll take the new canoe out because I can put him on the deck of my new canoe. If it's just me, if I'm fishing a tournament, I'm definitely taking out my Hobie PA. A lot more micro adjustments, a lot more attachments where I can put my rods, my fish finder. If I'm trying to go out and just do like a lighthearted trip where I know I only got 2 hours, I'll take out my inflatable, and I'll literally go back to just a backpack of tackle and one rod and just peace out and just do it like that. So, I'm kind of all over the place, really.
So let me ask you this for the monster bass community, because we do have a lot of people, first time anglers, they get their first box, they get indoctrinated into this cult of bass fishing, which is this whole family. We got this community. Some of them are bank anglers and they get excited that they maybe want to venture onto the water. What would you recommend being the first kayak? Like, what is the stepping stone? What's the gateway drug of kayaks in your mind? Of what would you educate people to go? What would they buy?
Yes. So a lot of people get deterred from kayak fishing because they do what I did, which is I went to Sports Authority, which is now closed down in Florida, and they had a lifetime kayak on sale for $200. I bought it. I put it on top of my station wagon at the time, and that was my first fishing kayak. And it wasn't a fishing kayak. This thing was tippy. It was just cheaply made. It was terrible. And so I wouldn't give the suggestion of like, hey, go out and just buy a $2,000 kayak. I would say, if you are interested, go on Facebook Marketplace and just type in fishing kayak, because you're going to get something about the same price that you would for a non-fishing kayak at a big box store. And so you can get something that are like a feel free, you can get something for like $400 or $500 that already has rod holders in there. It's got everything you kind of need, and you can start there and just see like, do I like this? Because the cool thing about a kayak is you almost feel like a pilot sometimes, because it's like everything that you need is right where it needs to be. No more, no less. You figure out what works for you, and it's 100% customizable. Drill holes in it, put track mounts, change out everything. So I would say just go on Facebook Marketplace, man, and type in fishing kayak or whatever you got to do, and just grab one that's $300, $400, $500, because kayaks have really great resale values. So just keep it clean it up, and resell it for $50 less than you did, and make that upgrade if you feel like, yeah, this is my thing.
Smart.
You ever get chased out of somebody's yard throwing a kayak into their pond?
I ask permission if I can, so I haven't really, gotten chased out, but no, I kind of, I try and play by the rules as much as I can.
And is there like a threshold of equipment where like and I understand like Yak Tribe, it doesn't matter, right? You're in a kayak, you're part of the Yak Tribe, so I get that. But like, is there beef within the kayak community as far as, well, this guy's got like this thing and that thing, and that's not a real kayak?
Yes, and this is where like I literally will get on and I will just be like, guys. So the argument goes like this. I first got into kayak fishing, like when I started Yak Tribe in 2015. I had at the time a field and stream kayak. It wasn't pedal drive, but in my mind I was like, I'm getting a Hobie. I'm gonna get a Hobie one day, and it's gonna happen soon. And so the deal is like back then, almost 10 years ago at this point, there were guys that were already doing this for 20 years. Okay. There were guys that were doing this when I was 8 years old with my dad, who were, grown-ups at that time. And there was this whole big thing. Oh, you people with, Hobies and drives, you guys aren't kayaking. They really say this. You guys are not kayakers, because a kayaker paddles their kayak. And I'm like, okay, so why are you? My kind of debate to that would be like, Okay, then why are you using a carbon fiber paddle, right? Like, why aren't you using a wooden oar or a wooden paddle on your kayak, right? So Yak Tribe's all about being inclusive, not exclusive in the kayak fishing community.
Unless you're in a glitter boat. No glitter boats allowed.
No.
Exactly.
Can you? Yeah, I was gonna say, can you have glitter on your kayak? Because I might do a little glitter on my kayak.
Right, so there's a whole debate where it's like that's how it was, and over the last 3 years, that debate has been moved forward, and it's like, okay, we're all starting to accept that if you have a pedal drive, you're still a kayak fisherman. All the old salts can come to terms with that because honestly, they realize, oh my gosh, my back kind of hurts, and yeah, these pedal drives are pretty nice, you know, and so there are still people out there rocking the paddle, and I still have kayaks where we rock the paddle. My son rocks the paddle. It's all good. I love it for a good back workout. But your pedal drive's still kayak fishing. But now we're in the debate, which is if you have a motor on your kayak, now you are definitely not a kayak fisherman. And I would say just because the means of propulsion has changed does not mean that I'm not literally sitting like on a kayak right now. So I would still say, yeah, you're a kayak fisherman, but these debates go hard, which now is leading into.
Okay, wait. I want to set you up. Don't go to forward facing yet.
Okay.
Okay, pontoon.
He's set up and say, "Don't go to the place that we just now went."
No. We're backing up. Because I'm a troublemaker. I'm a total troublemaker. Pontoon style blue sky boat works. I had one.
Yep.
I fished off that for a while. So Jackson kayak. This thing, Raphie, is. I called it like my ADA, which is awesome. I've seen people in truly wheelchairs like wheeled onto this thing and strapped down. So when people start to fight it, when people fight against motors, I'm like, hey, you want to tell a person that lost their leg, a veteran? You're going to sit here and tell me a veteran that lost his leg that can't use a pedal drive. You're going to tell them right to their face that they can't use a motor. You do that because I'm going to stand next to that veteran and we might fight you. But that's a whole nother discussion. So
I think it's so easy. If a bass boat tries to run you over, you're in a kayak. That's it.
That's just that's how it works. But so the discussion is, tell me this. I'm on a blue sky boat works. I'm on a kayak, and you keep using this idea of sitting down. What if I strip everything off my blue sky boat work? I put a trolling motor in the front, and I'm standing only with a foot drive pedal trolling motor. Am I kayaking at that point? What's your thought?
Man, I mean, you want to go like semantics. No,
because this is like literally, this is the boat I was making. I had the boat. I know it's legal. I'm curious of am I gonna be excommunicated from the Yak Tribe is really what I'm asking.
No, you wouldn't be excommunicated, but if you came to the meetup, we'd be like, bro, you know that's not a kayak, right? Like, dude, you're down to you are Yak Tribe, but just so you know, like that's not.
What about Lone Star? Doesn't he have a cabote? I still can't figure out what that is. Is a cabote a kayak?
Right.
So John boats. Yeah, you tell. This is an interesting thing. Is like, how little does the dinghy need to be before it's legal to be a kayak?
Yeah. By the way, Chris Fix just handed me a note saying that he forgot to tell us, but like Heath has to go.
Hey guys, I'm still good. No, keep going. I'm pretty good right now, so let's keep going.
All right, you just got to give us a sign when you have to go. And I think it's saying, guys, I have to go, and that'll be our sign.
I got you.
All right,
I got you. But no, man. And in terms of like how far do you push it to qualify what's a kayak or not? I mean, I would hope that we live in a world these days where we can just like look with our eyeballs and be like, yeah, that's a kayak, or like, dude, you have a 40, you know, on the back of your kayak. That's not, you know, it's all about the spirit of it. So it's just like, you know, laws and all this stuff, you go to court and you talk to lawyers and it's the spirit of the law, you know, what matters. And so it's like kayaking. Yeah.
What is the spirit then of kayaking? No, I'm asking.
Yeah. Good question.
Friend.
Yeah. I guess I would say for that, asking for a friend. Yes. And Raphie, I want to say, man, like, you don't have to directly ask. You are Yak Tribe now, man. You are part of the Yak Tribe.
So I appreciate it.
You gotta get it. Yak Tribe.
And by the way, with no question, you know, it's just with paddles that are plastic, not carbon fiber.
Right.
Oh
so
no. It's Raphie's in the club. Yak Tribe, glitter, no glitter. We don't care, Raphie. You're in. Yak
That's
Tribe
right.
hat,
Perfect.
shirt.
You're in. Yeah, man. So I would say like what makes it cool is like this, right? What makes kayak fishing cool is it's a community. Um, you are more susceptible to dangerous situations. Okay, like that's the facts, right? Like a boat could come, run you over. You know, I fished out in La Jolla, California. I've met Rick out there before, and it's like, man, they got waves where you're just being toppled over, and it takes 4 tries to get past the surf, and it just is dangerous. And so part of me is like, okay, that's why I like kayak fishing, because not everyone can do this, man, you know? And so, but we're all, what makes it a little bit different and is that we're all in it together, man. So a kayak fisherman, if you're a kayak fisherman, you're usually into like camping, you're usually into like DIY, you're usually into like figuring out how to fix things. And if you've met another kayak fisherman, I'm sure you've been like, wow, I have like 15 things in common with this guy. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that's why it's a little bit more of a knit community, because we rely heavily on each other. When we go out in like a pack of 5 or 6, like say we take a trip to Louisiana and there's 6 of us out there, and hey, we're looking out for each other. Like, hey guys, there's fish over here. Hey guys, careful, there's a guy coming. You know, watch out. You know, and it just builds like this camaraderie that's really cool. Whereas when you're on a boat, you're just zooming around. You're not really talking to other boaters. You're just trying to stay away from each other. And
Right. There's even on boat politics, right? Somebody's got to fish in the back of the boat.
Yeah. And by the way, that's what really drew me to kayak fishing, like full-time kayak fishing, was the fact that I would go on my friends' boats, and man, I'd be like, dude, let's go. We got to go over here. And he's like, dude, my boat. He's like, no, man, I'm telling you, the fish are over here. I'm like, I'm telling you, bro, they're not here. They're over there. Whereas when we're in a kayak, look, there's none of that debate. We might all launch from one spot, but if I'm like, hey, bro, peace out, I'm going half a mile over here, hit me up on the radio if you got some action, you know. And we don't have to have those little politics and debates. It's just like, love you, man, catch you later.
Right. That's all. Yak Tribe, there are no rear anglers.
I love
that danger aspect though is really
dude, I might have to make a shirt doing that. I like it.
So I will tell you this though, I'm a better back of the boat angler because of kayak fishing. And I'll tell you why. Is when you kayak fish, you mentioned a couple things and you quickly went through of like, I'm missing fish, I'm not catching fish, I'm in a boat, I'm going to take off and go somewhere else. What also happens on a bass boat, and I have a buddy, his name's John, we talk all the time, we fish together in tournaments, he'll catch a fish, he's on his motor up front, he catches a fish, and then he goes to the next spot that looks like the same area. In a kayak, it's really fun to see what forward-facing sonar is doing to these pros now in bass boats. They catch a fish, they sometimes excite a school of fish, and then they continue to fish the same water. Historically, bass anglers in boats have caught a fish and they move. They catch a fish and they move, and they're constantly moving. As a kayak angler, I catch a fish, and because I'm not pedaling somewhere else right away, I cast again, and I oftentimes catch another fish. So when I'm on the back of the boat and my buddy catches a fish, instinctively I go to the follower. I'm looking for the trailer fish. Or when those fish pull off and they go back, I'm throwing a different bait. So if he threw a topwater, I might throw a worm right back in the same area he caught a fish. And so I'm fine to fish the same water because of my time in a kayak, where historically boat anglers don't do that. So I know that's why I say it's a cool concept of like having 2 kayaks. I'll fish next to my buddy in the kayak. And what I really love about kayaking, it used to piss off like the editor of Bass Angler magazine. We'd go fishing together. Will Dowd Martin, he's an awesome angler. He moved over on the East Coast now, and he does some guiding. I think it's Lake Champlain where he's at. But I would fish underneath his kayak, knowing the fish are using his kayak as shade and as structure. And after somebody's sitting in an area for a while, and he was a paddler, not a peddler, so he didn't have noise under his boat, I would throw a Ned rig and it would drop underneath his boat into the shallow water, and I'd pick up fish underneath him, which is a crack up. It's super fun. I learned that from fly fishing, where really good guys would catch the fish at my feet that were coming in and feeding behind me in the current stream, and I was breaking the current. But all these things transition you in your brain of like, oh my gosh, I learned something from fly fishing that I applied to kayak fishing, that now I'm a better back of the boat fisherman because of kayak fishing. So it's just a cool process to put all the pieces together And it is a cool community. That's this whole concept is learning these things, working together, fishing. Absolute blast. I want to mention we do have a hotline open. I know we got the phone line. If anybody has a question for Heath, that we can handle some calls today.
Hey, there's one thing I did want to make note of, because I'm reading the chats as well, and I just want to kind of do like I'm here to convert some people tonight, into kayak bass fishing. That's what we're gonna do. And so let me just run a few ideas and numbers by you. So let's say, Raphie, let's use you as an example, okay? Because you don't have a kayak right now, right?
I don't.
Okay. So Raphie, we're gonna put you in one of the best kayaks we can, and we're going to get you some of the best accessories to make your time on the water the most comfortable. So let's say we're gonna get you one of the top of line kayaks, and that's gonna come in at $5,500. Okay, so you're like, ooh, that's a big number, right? Because the argument is like, if you're gonna get into kayak fishing, you might as well
is that COVID or post COVID?
No, we're talking about like right now.
Nah.
So let's say like $5,500, right? Like for like, this is like the Mac Daddy warranties, good plastic, your rudder lines aren't going to break on you, things like that. So
okay,
$5,500, all right. And then let's say, you know what? Let's go ahead and get you a motor. Let's just graduate you all the way to the top. So it's a pedal drive, and we're going to get you a motor. So let's say we use like a Bixby. All right. So let's say like $1,500. So now we're in your rig like $7,000. And if we want to throw like a real nice fish finder on there, let's stay away from FFS for now. But let's go old school, I guess. And let's just get like a Lowrance. Let's just get a good one. So let's say like $1,000. We're at like $8,000 right now. And then I would say like, let's get like rod holders, like just go crazy, in the store. And let's say $1,000 for accessories, your crates and your rod holders and all that stuff. So let's say we're at like $9,000. Okay. We're at $9,000, and you've basically got a setup that our pros in bass fishing can use for $9,000. Okay. Now with that, you've made that
glitter. Is that glitter or no glitter? Are we no glitter yet? Or can we do
no glitter?
I want a wrap. I want Raphie's boat to be wrapped with a little glitter.
All right, fine. $10,000.
I'm basically $10,000. So I'm basically saying we're gonna forget the DIY stuff. We're gonna forget the basic boats. I'm just gonna get you in the best thing ever, and you're at the top of the tier, even though you don't know what you're doing. Okay, great. But here's some of the advantages that you have over like grabbing a boat, even if it's a John boat, or even like a lower end like bass boat. You don't have insurance, right? So you're not paying for insurance. You're not paying for gas. You're not towing trailers. You're not looking for like bigger storage. I mean, you can store this on the side of your house on its side. What else? Like all of these other things, you're not really having to do all of this big maintenance that you would on boats. And that's what's appealing to people. So there are people who are like, if I'm going to spend $5,000 or on a kayak, then I might as well just get a boat. And it's like, dude, if you go get a boat, you cannot tell me if you're going to get a quality boat that you're really fishing, you're in control of that boat, you've got spot lock, you've got fish find, you're not spending less than $5,000 on that like really effective bass fishing boat. It's just not happening. So the appeal is like, that's why there's an appeal to kayak fishing, is because you can spend $10,000, but like, dude, if you want to spend $10,000, but like you're at the top, like that's the top already. There's not really further higher you can go than that.
See, I would imagine, and I hear you on that, I would imagine that the appeal would just be the quiet. Like you had me at freedom, and then just the quiet, just hearing like the lapping water or whatever. And that's it. It's amazing.
Yep. Yeah. It's very peaceful. Yeah. I definitely like connect with the Lord. I connect with nature. I kind of just reset, and it's just the serenity and all of that goes into kayak fishing. That's like a whole nother subject that we haven't talked about, but that's a big appeal for kayak fishermen, is that just that peace.
Yeah, and then one of our Monster Bass faithful, Arthur Blanda, he dropped 50 pounds just on a pedal kayak alone. Like that's all he did was he switched to pedaling, and he dropped 50.
Right. That's
awesome.
So cool.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So can I switch gears on us now?
Let's do it.
You've done something crazy, okay? And kayak fishing, you just indoctrinate people. You're baptizing them into your religion of kayak fishing. I love it. So not just kayak fishing, you've now gone the extra step to unite a community and provide service. And what I'm talking about is being a van lifer, going with the schoolie You've taken a school bus and you've
Mhm.
converted it into a mobile store. You have a tackle shop, literally in a store that can go now to kayak events. I'm teasing. It's like the Uber Eats for fish, because everything a fish wants to eat, you're delivering it to the water's edge. You've taken this upon yourself. Obviously, there's a monetary opportunity for you to sell gear, but what a cool idea of bringing the concept of the store in this world that we're buying things online and there's local tackle shops. You're bringing that tackle shop right to the community and saying, hey, this is what you need to be successful on the water. Tell me, where'd that brainchild come from? Tell me about that.
Yeah, man. So when we started Yak Tribe in 2015, I had this dream and I was like, man, one day we're going to take this show on the road. I'm really excited for it. And my wife was like, nah, I don't like this RV idea. And just one day she walked into our room. She was like, hey, I know I've been saying no for like 3 years, but would you still want to live in an RV? Literally 3 days later, we were at an RV show. I bought an RV, traded my Jeep in for a truck, and I was like, peace out. Let's go. I had 2 kids at the time. Now I have 4, and we just went for it. And so I always had this, even when we were living on the road, I had these sketches of like a kayak shop and what I wanted a kayak shop to look like and what I would, sell in the shop and all of these things. And so we got off the road in like 2021 and we bought a house back in Tampa Bay, Florida, where I'm from. Then COVID happened. And then after COVID, we were like, I still would love to do that shop. And I started looking at, leases and stuff. And, these places in St. Pete, Florida, they want 4, 5, 6 grand a month. I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is wild. Businesses closing down. And then I kind of just had just an idea. Really, I felt like the Lord gave me this idea and just peace about the whole situation. I was like, man, we used to do a lot of tournaments. We did a lot of tournaments while we were on the road. I was like, why am I trying to get in a brick and mortar so bad? What if I did something mobile? Because people know us from being mobile. And so I started looking for a school bus. That was hard. And then I went on an auction, a government auction, and I bought this bus. And it used to be a prison bus.
Yeah, so it's even better.
Yeah, so I converted it. I ripped out the prison cages out of it. I took all the seats out. And I said, you know what? We're going to get back to our roots. We are going to, yes, we sell stuff in the store. Yes, we have our own baits and all of those things. But we are going to bring back the service to the kayak fishing community. So right now, our grand opening is April 27th, 2024. And every single month, we're going to have a small tournament in the morning from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. But at 2 o'clock...
Is this at the secret spot 4 minutes from your house?
Honestly, it's not too far. So, but we're going to start in Florida. We're going to go, Tampa Bay, Sarasota, Wesley. We're going to go all around, Newport Richie and wherever we need to go. Mosquito Lagoon, these areas, Jacksonville. And basically, we're going to be a moving tournament trail. And so from 6 a.m. to 1, it's going to be a laid-back tournament. It's going to be awesome and fun. But at 2 o'clock at every event, every single one, whether you fished it, whether you didn't fish it, whether you just saw us on the side of the road, that's when we're going to have the big Yak Tribe block party. So when you guys were growing up, I don't know if you ever, like, your parents brought you to like block parties, or you and your homies went to like a Friday night block party or something like that, or like a car show. So basically, I'm going to have like the bus set up with all of our flags, with music, live music, with our tents for shade. And then we're going to like line up like 50 kayaks, like a car show. And it's just going to be awesome. Like a big party. People are going to bring their chairs and their grills. And we're just going to every single month have like a massive kayak fishing party, so that's the idea behind it.
Can't wait. All right. So here, before we go on, business right on screen, Raphie, we're going to get Monster Bass baits in the Yak Tribe mobile tackle shop. Okay. Well, so we'll figure that out.
Of course. But before we get to that, and first of all, do you have like a web address or something you could put up on the screen as far as like where people can get more information, or is it just at Yak Tribe?
Yeah, it's yak-tribe.com.
All right. Yeah. Now, I know that you plug something and it sounds awesome, and I know that there's an opportunity for me to actually do my job, Chris, which is to beg for Monster Bass product. Which is to get Monster Bass product in your offering, but I'm not there. And I've been with my wife for 22 years, and we've been married for 17 years.
I know you're going. You're like, we're going in the bus, honey. And she's like, have a nice trip.
And the no's that I got 22 years ago are the no's that I still get now. And after 3 years, your wife just turned around and said, "Are you still into it? Let's go."
Dude,
How?
Well, this is the deal, right? So I had like a long-term game plan because when she married me, we got married. She was 18, I was 20. And so when we first got married, this is a crazy story, but we still have a digital marketing company. And so I was like, you know what? We're making American dollars. Let's go back to, my dad's motherland. We're going to go to the Philippines because $1 is like times 4 over there. And so at 20 years old and 18 years old, we sold everything we got at the wedding. We sold all of our gifts. We sold my TV, our couch. We cleared the house.
Wow.
And we were going to go move to the Philippines. And then the government denied our work visas because we didn't have our company wasn't old enough. So then we had to rebuy everything. And my wife was like, I'm not doing that again. And so I was like, all right, let's do another crazy adventure. Let's live on a sailboat. And then like, we can like do and she was like, absolutely not. And so I had like all these crazy ideas.
That's a rough
like,
life, by the way, living on a
sailboat.
Like it sounds amazing, but I know people that have done it and man, is it tough.
Yeah, I was like, let's live in a van though. She's like, but I want to have a family. I was like, oh, so then we were trapped in a house and I wanted a big family as well. And then I pitched the RV thing and she's like, I just can't see us raising kids. I would do it, but I can't see us raising kids. And so what I did was, I was hoping she'd come around, but at night I just started watching YouTube videos of RV life. And so like how to fix an RV, what happens if your RV breaks down, how to live in one, what are the essentials you need. And I just started following these people. And like my wife would like fall asleep listening to these, traveling stories. And then eventually she was like, you still want to live in an RV? I was like, yeah. She was like, I'd be down. So I subliminally just like let it seep in,
That's
like
so smart.
He put it out there. He Oprah Winfrey'd it. He manifested it, and all of a sudden now he's got his RV.
3-year lead time. That's diabolical. I'm so
good. It's the master plan. He just master planned it. So yeah, no, I grew up as a kid. My dad bought a church bus, and we ripped out the inside and we converted it to a motorhome. And we traveled from Texas to California back, did the Painted Desert, the Grand Canyon, and we were like Partridge Family, had our names painted underneath the windows. So I'm all about the van life and seeing what you've done with the bus and understanding the community, the connection. That's that MONSTERBASS vibe. This whole Yak Tribe thing is bringing people together around the sport of fishing. Doesn't really matter if somebody's on a boat and they're in a kayak, whatever. Like we all love to be outdoors. We all love the things that bring us together as humans. Like what a cool story. The thing that you're constantly reinventing, just building an opportunity to bring folks together to enjoy something. I think that's commendable.
That's
so good job,
man. Honestly, we have no hate or issues with people who are on boats or that wade fish because guys, like I wear this proudly, but I still wade fish. I still pond hop. I put a rod holder on the back of my bike and a crate. I still do that thing. I fish off of a paddle board. Yak Tribe is just the means by which we're able to build a more off-screen relationship and have brotherhood. Because man, I tell you what, right now, like seriously, right now, I could hop on the Yak Tribe forum. Like if you go to our website and look at our database, and I could call some guys in Pennsylvania and be like, hey, I'm coming through Pennsylvania. And they'll be like, dude, I got a kayak, I got rods, don't bring anything. And that's not just because I own Yak Tribe. Yak Tribe members, I'm like blown away because sometimes I'll see a meetup happening that I never was even involved in the planning. I'm like, guys, can I come? And they're like, yeah, sure. We have guys that go from like California to Louisiana. They bring nothing. And Yak Tribe guys in Louisiana chapter, they just roll out the red carpet. They get them on the kayak and all that stuff. So it's really just
awesome.
A community, man.
How's a Yak Tribe chapter in Tulsa?
Man, wait. Where's that
at? Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're going to be going to the.
Let me say, we might need a little bit of help in that area.
We're going to be at the Yak Master Classic.
Yeah.
I love it.
Heath, this was awesome, man. This was really awesome, and you did a really good job of promoting your affinity for kayaking, but also establishing that it's really just another way to enjoy the very same thing that so many people enjoy. And I think that's also one of the magical things about bass fishing or just fishing in general, right? You don't see a lot of beef, or maybe you do. Is there a lot of beef between like ocean anglers and like fly fishermen? I don't think there is. I think everyone just,
Dude,
I don't
it's
know,
just
likes
the
getting out
means
there.
by which we get to doing what we love, and that's fishing. That's why I say, like, I wear these things loud and proud, but I'm reading the chats, and one guy's like, "You guys are making it seem like there's a civil war between boaters and kayakers." No, guys, it's just like anything else, man. If you're really into kayakers, you find a community of kayakers. You know, it's just brotherhood. You know, that's
That's
why I
what you need to do. You need to have a Civil War reenactment on the water, yaks and glitter boats. That would be amazing. I would go to that meetup. And then you have like glitter boats and kayaks all lined up at the end for the block party. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Dude,
So
that's giving me like a visual of like a YouTube skit that we need to film, honestly.
I'm in. I wasn't invited, but I'm in.
but you're the director. No, it's fun because I do. It's not that pride and competition thing, but when I fish in my local events here, even where I live, it's fun to go out in my kayak to fish against my friends that are in their bass boats. And it's just that whole thing of like, oh, who's better, who's got more connection to fish or whatever. Once you understand fish and you understand where they're at, it's just a means of getting over to the fish and presenting a bait. At that point, it really doesn't matter. And like I said, like we're all in this together. We just want to get outside. We want to catch a fish. Hey, Raphie, how long I know we're talking about show lengths. How much more time do we have in our show tonight? What's our plan?
Heath texted me. He said he wants to be on air for another 3 hours. So buckle up.
Right.
I hope you have snacks and we go.
know, honestly, I would really love to hop on here again with you guys and like talk like a whole segment on sight fishing. I like live for that, you know, sight fishing and all those types of things. That'd be really fun to do.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. We'd love to have you on again.
Are we trying to go to 5:30 or what's our plan for tonight, Raphie?
I don't have a plan. We're freestyling. I think 5:30 is our hard out, but I know Heath, I don't want to keep you much longer than you need to.
Yeah, I got about 5 more minutes. I'm gonna hop off.
Okay,
cool.
Touch on this because I think we've touched on fishing, kayak versus boat. You've got a whole world that I want to bring up. Inshore angling, the trifecta. We're talking snook. We got speckled trout. We've got all these ideas. We got redfish. You're a accomplished saltwater angler, and people think a kayak is like, oh yeah, it's fine for a pond. That's fine for a little lake. But you're choosing a kayak for saltwater. What's your like? And you talk about sight fishing, and I know like I watched your video just before you got on tonight, and you sight fished a redfish, and you're throwing a topwater, looked like a spook, and the fish smashed it, and it's so much fun. And I have a little connection to the salt, you know, the Florida water. Tell me your choice and the direction of like you going towards those much bigger fish. What's that all about in your mind? And going after that. So
for me, you know, and boaters, they have the same concept, man. It's like it's all about the hunt. You know, like I am truly fascinated when I watch some of these guys on bass boats and they've got the screens and they're like, you know, they see a fish way down there on the bed and then it's all bedded up and they're just like making it work, and then the fish eats their bait, and it's just like it's like a perfect storm. And like that is like what really gets me going. And so if you ever come out on a kayak fishing trip with me, you will not see me cast my rod until I have seen with my eyes a fish. And so I blind fish and fan cast and stuff, but for me, it's about the hunt and the thrill of taking this lure that we made or that I bought from the store. And I also, by the way, I soak bait too with my kids and use shrimp. But when I'm out by myself, I'm using artificial. And wait.
Oh my goodness. You use live bait? No, I'm teasing.
Yeah. So
again, these are these little things of like, how dare you ever use live bait? It's like you fish in Florida with a shiner, and it's like that's kind of how people have caught fish for I don't know 20,000 years, but keep going.
Right. Yeah. So I'll use live bait when I'm trying to get my kids interested. And so I want their morale to be up and their excitement to get up. So yeah, we use live bait. But if I'm out by myself, man, I see like, you know, 25 inch or something, redfish cruising the flats, and I'm able to stand up and push pole towards it and make that cast and intercept that fish. And like you saw in that video, and it eats it. I'm like, this is how I literally feel. I feel like this. I could survive. Like, okay, I can survive if the world just goes crazy. we can get back to our roots, and I could go out there and catch a fish with this fake thing, you know, and it's just a really cool feeling to sight fish. And so when I was fishing out of my boat, I wasn't able to really be as stealthy. And that could have just been my setup or just me not having enough time on the vessel. But I wasn't as stealthy. Like even with that trolling motor, it's like blah, 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 you know, like all the way through the water. And these fish in Florida and Tampa Bay, this crystal clear water, they will spook off by that. And that's not to say that our guys on skiffs don't, you know, they catch great fish, but even them, they're poling. They're using these poles on their poling platforms and they're sight casting fish. So for me, I chose the kayak because it's easy to maneuver. I've got 12 feet in the water and I can literally use this 12-foot pole and just pull around, use my polarized glasses. I see a fish, I pitch to it, and if it eats it, it's on. And it's just like that for me, that's what does it for me.
Yeah, it's funny because people don't realize that you have a $250,000 to $500,000 inshore boat to go and target redfish, and you turn the motor off and you turn the trolling motor off and you use a big tall fiberglass or carbon fiber stick to move that boat around to get close, that a kayaker just launched, I don't know, 100 yards away and floated over and caught the same fish. So it's kind of cool to think of like your survival instinct. It's pretty primal. That for me is that whole connection to being right at the fish, right in with them. You're in nature. My favorite way to catch a fish or to harvest a fish is to spearfish. Like truly to put on mask and snorkel and to get underneath the water and selective harvest. There's nothing that I like better to do that if I want to put food on the table.
Exactly.
And your kayak fishing,
I can do this. Yeah.
Yeah, you're part of that whole connection. Is like whether it's abalone diving or going somewhere else and you're spearing fish, that next piece up is maybe bank fishing and kayak fishing, and it keeps you intimately connected to that sport. So, I mean, thanks for sharing all that. It's super cool to have that insight.
Bass fishing, spear fishing, tarpon fishing, kayak fishing, boat fishing. Can we just all agree that polarized glasses are the forward-facing sonar of sight fishing?
It is. Sure.
Eating it. If you don't have them, like I think I have like 20 pair behind me right there, and you can see them. I say that all the time. If you don't have good glasses, like what are you doing? So I tease. Oh, I caught my PB. Well, were you wearing forward face? Were you using forward facing? Were you using polarized glasses? I tease anybody that wants to know. It's like, if you're amazing, tell me you used a bear hook, no bait, because that's really good. And maybe there's no reel. You just tied string on a bamboo stick. Like, how much do we want to segregate? It's kind of funny.
I just ask him to hop in the boat.
It's like I pray and I hold my hands out.
Hey man, can we at least all agree on this? Let's just all agree on this. The people who are the loudest and complain the most and have the most to whine about in this whole debate and stuff are the ones who don't even go out and fish. Like they don't even go. They don't even, so.
The funny thing is that, and I think that as we get older, we lose this lesson because we get so dug in for whatever reason, where the things that we do become like parts of our identity. But like I tell my kids all the time that like there could be two truths that seem to be conflicting and they could both be accurate. Somebody could think that like fishing from a boat is the most amazing thing ever. And somebody could think that fishing from a kayak is the most amazing thing ever. And they could both be right and exist in the same world.
Yeah, to each their own, man. It's whatever means by which you need to accomplish your goal of fishing. Literally, it doesn't matter. There just happens to be a place for everybody. There really does. Yeah. So if you're into boating, there's that. If you're into spear fishing, there is a whole community of spear fishermen. If you're into kayak fishing, there's Yak Tribe. There's really a place for everybody. So that's what I love about it.
I love it. I dig it. No, I mean, you said it. So now I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
Let's go.
Pedal or paddle? You got to pick one. Pedal drive or pedal. Okay. So he's forget the paddle. I'm going to pedal. Now we're going next level. Pedal or motor on a kayak? What do you prefer? Pedal. He's going to throw away the motor. Now, we haven't touched on this yet. Forward-facing sonar or old school downward side-facing sonar? What do you pick? I'm baiting you. I'm baiting you. This is the Chris, the devil. Forward-facing or no forward-facing?
I haven't used it myself, so it's hard to say. But I will tell you this. For me, I'm not against it all the way, but forward facing is not for me yet. because for me, it takes away a little bit of that primal like survival. Like I made this happen, not this
Cool.
device. Like I did this. I got that fish to eat my bait because I paddled and I found that fish. So
That's
for
awesome.
me, I would still say the down, because I'd rather just at least know the depths of what's going on.
It's cool. No, that's this fun thing. Is like it is a tool. You're understanding the depths. You're looking at temperature of water. You understand the wind direction. You're looking at currents, movement. You recognize the benefits of having it, and you like to use your cheating polarized glasses to
I
find those
know.
fish.
I know. Also, by the way, forward-facing sonar does nothing for inshore, slam fishing like I'm doing.
Well,
I'm in a
I'll tell you, it is coming up. Guys are fishing beds with forward-facing sonar,
yeah,
like 60, 70, 80 feet away to not spook bedfish, which is
yeah,
crazy.
man.
But
It's
that's the
crazy.
fun part. Like, who cares? I mean, I'm like, whatever, go fish, do the things you like. If you feel successful and fulfilled and happy by seeing a fish and catching it, how cool is that? Do your thing, be happy, be stoked, and then share that with other people. I mean, your infectious desire to kayak fish. I hope people, whether they like it or not, I hope they just glean something from seeing a person that's passionate about something you like. The thing that I've learned today is like, what a cool opportunity to find someone that's so passionate. And your passion isn't for you to just put on your blinders and go do it yourself. Your passion is I'm going to keep doing this, but I'm going to bring as many people into this community as I can. And I'm going to educate them. I'm going to outfit them. I'm going to teach them. I'm going to work with them. We're going to celebrate. We're going to have a party. Like, what a cool thing you're doing, sharing your love of something with the whole community of the Yak Tribe. So that's awesome.
I appreciate you for saying that, man. I really do. I appreciate it, and I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity because it's if it weren't for the people and the community and the people of Yak Tribe, like there would be no opportunity to do this. So the Yak Tribe community has been super gracious with me and my family and my kids. Like literally, these people who come to Yak Tribe events, they know my kids. My kids go up to them. My kids call some of them uncle. Like, dude, it's just
That's
an
right.
amazing thing. So I'm
That's
really
awesome.
excited for the opportunity. Yeah.
That's cool. That's good. No, it's
Yeah.
I saw your son's new boat. You're getting his boat all set up, and I have a local friend that I think
Yeah.
he's spending twice the time and twice the money on his kid's boat. He's setting his kid's boat up even better than his. That's such a
Yeah.
cool thing to see the families, whether you're on a bass boat, whether you're on a pontoon boat, getting families together, the next generation, and passing on your love for something. I mean, you're doing what I think is the most successful thing in life, and just your joy, entertainment, but also the education. You're going to make the world a better place by, like one paddle dip at a time, one pedal stroke at a time, pushing your feet. Just go fish, get outside, go do stuff. And the Yak Tribe, like, what a cool thing to be a part of. So I'm
Yeah.
excited that Rafi's now a Yak Tribe member, even though
Let's
he
go.
was in college. Rafi, when you come up to Camp Chris, they're going to come up, they're going to fish off the pontoon. We'll have the kayak, get over and cruise. He can take his kayak. He can go over on the shoreline and go fish for a minute and get really intimate. It is honestly, tell me, Heath, I know we're getting close to time. When you see a person catch a fish the first time by themselves in a kayak, it is so different than when they're on a boat. So when a person's
man.
landing their first fish, or you net it for them and you do all those things, it's so exciting to put someone in a kayak for the first time. They have a
Yeah.
rod, they hook
Yeah.
a fish, they reel it up, they're fumbling around, they're dealing with the net. They finally get that fish into their own boat all by themselves. And you're
Yeah.
sitting back there like Papa, beaming with pride. What do you feel when you see that? Because I know what I
Dude,
feel. I want to hear what you feel.
It's like first of all, it's like complete chaos because they're like, oh, the net and the this and and they don't know how to lift the rod up, line up, and they don't know how to open, and it just goes crazy. And then it happens, and literally, when that happens, if it's their first time or I brought them out or whatever the case is, I literally feel like I just caught like the biggest tarpon of my life. I'm just like, this is insane. This is awesome. Like we did this. We did this. This is so cool.
That's awesome.
So it's a really cool thing.
So speaking of big tarpon, because this is what I want people to relate to, what's the biggest tarpon that you've landed in a kayak?
209 pounds. That's the calculated
Wow.
weight, because you take the girth and you take the length from the front of the mouth to the fork in the tail. And actually, Actually,
Yeah, do you have proof?
Yeah, it was.
Wait before you show the proof. How much do you weigh? I want to put this in perspective for people. You're fighting.
I weighed myself this morning. I'm like 172 right now.
That's what I thought. I wanted to make sure because I'm over 200. I'm like, I'm fighting a fish my same size. You're fighting a fish bigger than you, and it's towing you around. And people don't realize that a 5-pound bass moves a bass like I hook a 5-pound to a 7-pound bass. You get moved around quite a bit in a kayak. When you're fighting a 200-pound tarpon that's weighs more than you in your kayak, what was that like?
Dude, first of all, I thought I was gonna die. I was like, I am going to die. And every time I would grab the leader of this tarpon, I was like, I'm gonna lose my hand because it just goes for a run and my hand's gonna get sliced off. Like it was just absolutely insane. It was hours of fighting, and we're actually coming up on tarpon season here in the next few months. Like all my rods, they're getting like my regular inshore rods are getting put away, and the tarpon rods are coming out. So the stat was, this was my one last year, 6 foot 8 inches from the top lip to the fork. So that's just to the fork of the tail.
Wow.
The girth of it was 3 foot 8 inches. And so when you put those in the calculators online, it comes out at 209 pounds. So I don't know if you can see this. You probably can't really see it, but let me show you.
Yeah, tell us where can people find you on social media? Like, give us some insight. Like on, I know you got you got YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Where do they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me personally at Heath Panganiban on Instagram or on YouTube, Fishing with Heath.
You pronounced your last name beautifully, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He said it. He did not say it the right way. Your dad is so. Wait.
I know.
Me and your dad are so. You're right.
I said it my mom's way. Yeah. So you can find me there. But honestly, guys, like check out Yak Tribe on Instagram and check out our website, man. We got some really cool new things over there. So.
Well, Heath, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it, and we'd love to have you back to talk about sight fishing. I think that'll be awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Awesome. Honored to be here. I'm glad to be here. And honestly, I'll probably next time I see you guys probably be at iCast.
Nice.
Awesome. Right, say hi to the family. Awesome. Congrats on everything you're doing. Super fan. I mean, just keep it up. You bringing people together. It's what we're all about here at Monster Bash. You're doing it in the Yak Tribe world. So congrats. Thanks for that.
Thank you, guys. Well, I'll catch you later. And again, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Heck yeah.
See ya.
He was awesome.
Dude, he's fired up. I don't know. He's like, it's a religion. It's a cult. It's all these things that we talk about, these teasing things as a joke, but it's no joke. He's passionately serious. That's his life, is kayak fishing. And he's bringing it to people, invested in this. I mean, taking a bus and converting it is no joke. And then putting on an event every month, like he's talking about, like, what a cool guy. I ran into him just at iCast randomly. We're walking around and he's got his family there and he's just so excited to share the sport of fishing with other people. That's really, awesome. Really cool to see what he's doing. Yeah, no, I want to ask, are you, from listening to him in an hour and a half's time, are you interested in trying kayak fishing?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so maybe I downplayed it a little bit just to be funny, but I love kayaking, and it's all with paddles. Like I was in Iceland and went ocean kayaking wearing like a dry suit in July in like this crazy chop. My father-in-law, my wife's dad, lives out by the Finger Lakes, and he loves kayaking. So when we're up there, he like tries to destroy me and take me on these like 4-mile round trip, kayak tours. I really enjoy it. The thing that's a little bit intimidating for me is the last time I was at iCast, I was watching a video that Hobie put out as far as like the precision that you could do with the pedals. And I mean, this was some guy who was just like swinging like 360s and 180s right. between like, whatever, under docks and
you turn the 360 drive sideways, the boat perfectly goes perpendicular to the shoreline.
And so to me, that's a little bit intimidating, right? Because kayaking, my muscle memory and my experience with kayaking has all been about paddling and just kind of pulling water. Right. And so I don't know how I would do if like I mean, I could play basketball, I can't play soccer all that well. I just don't know if my feet are gonna work.
No, I'll tell you, that's the one thing is like you've been involved in kayaking on a level where if you go kayaking and touring, and people have this misconception that like in Heath, all these things that he shares, it's so informative, but sometimes it goes past the audience where they're thinking, oh, I have a kayak and they're narrow. Well, a narrow kayak is designed to go far. There's less water resistance. So a narrow kayak is a touring kayak whitewater kayaks have different volumes, and some of those are made to go underwater hydrodynamically. Some are made like play boats that are short and stubby. Every kayak has a specific design to accomplish a specific task. So I work with an inflatable company and do all their REI videos. Knowing what fishing presents, you want it to be stable, and they're oftentimes not designed to go as far. So they're going to be less narrow, meaning they're gonna have a little water resistance to them, but that stability allows you to not tip over, to not.
And you stand on them too, right? You're not casting when you're sitting.
I mean, I fish on them standing a lot, and I prefer standing to see. Like Heath is talking about seeing, you definitely have a better vantage point by standing. When you think of a skiff and they make a tower to stand on top of a tower to see fish far away, when you're red fishing and all that inshore stuff he does, standing on a kayak is really a commonplace. I know, I think Rick had Midwestern fisher gal Christy on here a long time ago. So Christine is like one of the best kayak anglers. She stands on the front of her Hobie, like out on the cockpit out in the front, and
like hang 10,
like literally hanging 10, hanging 5, cheater 5, like she's surfer girl out front. But standing on your kayak nowadays is pretty standard operation. And so there's kayaks specifically made to fish, and that nervousness, there's a good thing is there's on water day demos. I think that's one thing to bring into light for people that are interested. Truly try a fishing kayak if you're interested, not just a kayak that you buy as a discounted kayak, because they're not made to stop and to lean sideways. My pontoon style kayak, I could stand both feet on the edge on one side and it wouldn't tip over. And I'm like 225, 6'5", all my gear, and the boat. Kelly and I fished off of the same kayak together all the time, no problem. So having
Aren't those
a
called
boat,
divorce boats, or is that the one where you're
so well, I have an inflatable kayak right now. It's called, we actually turn the seats to face each other. We call it FaceTime seating. And then I was teasing when I was filming, I said, get out of my face seating, where you have the back, you're looking at somebody else. And that's the normal tandem setup, is you're both facing forward. I hate that, because if my wife goes to overhead cast, that hook is right in my lap or my face. And that's a bad way to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you're facing each other, it's really cool. What we did in kayaks often is I would have my kayak and she would turn her kayak next to me, and we would actually connect our kayaks side by side. So we're looking at each other, but we're both fishing on the opposite sides, having a great time, almost like a picnic setup. You're hanging out in your kayak. So it's super fun. And then when she got sick of talking to me or whatever, like you said, she goes over and fishes her spot. I could fish my spot. So that keeps you not divorced, maybe to allow you to fish your own water. So there's so many fun things to talk about. But like I said, what a cool guy to come on here and spend the time sharing what he's obviously passionate about. And you've had some connection to the water, and now it's like, okay, having this excitement, like maybe I give kayak fishing a try and check it out. I just think it's been a really cool opportunity to explore that a little bit.
Yeah, I do. I do too.
That's cool. Well, hey, let's we got any Monster Bass?
We got 3 minutes left.
Yeah, do we got any Monster Bass business? Why the man is away finding himself in the desert eating his dates? Anything we need to update the Monster Bass community with?
The food dates, just to clarify.
Okay. Yeah, just thank you.
Yeah. No, we don't have much. Well, you know what? Rick and I are going to be in Tulsa next week. Hanging out with, I don't know, anyone that could find us. Monster Bass is going to have a booth. We are going to have this was Rick's idea. I think it's a great one. We're going to have a claw machine, and it's going to be free for anyone that's like a Monster Bass member, and anyone who's not, just give us your email address and join our mailing list, and then you could, test your luck to see if you can get a free bait. But we're going to be out there just kind of saying hi to everyone, and showing everyone our new stuff, which leaves you kind of manning the show next week.
I'm excited. I think we're going to dive into the idea of tournament fishing. I want to explore that. Hopefully we'll have a couple guests that we're going to pop in, some phone calls. I want to discuss, you're going to the Classic, and the Classic is, I think, this really cool opportunity to bring the best bass anglers from the world all around. They used to put people on a plane, they'd fly them around, not tell them their lake, the destination where they're fishing. They used to have to just show up and go and pick apart the water and find out who truly is the best angler. They used to only bring so much tackle with them, a couple rods. So we'll talk a little bit about the history of the Classic, but then I want to get into some fun questions. And I know forward-facing sonar is going to come up. The Classic winner in the past, I think They actually used AquaView. Past winter was out cruising around, and he's like, what are those things on the bottom of the lake? He dropped down a legal camera to use during practice, dropped it to the bottom, and was like, oh my gosh, those are actually fish. And so that's the spot that he went back and fished. So he used a technology that everyone's like, oh, it's just a tool. That tool is illegal to use on tournament day. So it's fun to know there are things that are just tools. I air quote tools. So the AquaView live camera is legal for practice, but that tool has been banned for competition.
Wow.
And
it's all about glass bottom glitter boats.
Glass bottom glitter boats. They had that. I mean, you could actually they actually had a thing you put in the water and you look into it and it has the glass on the bottom and you could view the smallmouths on beds. And so they have a way to look. Now you don't need to look into anything. You can just look at your forward facing sonar. So we'll discuss some of that. We'll have some fun. We'll talk about what you guys are doing. Maybe you guys can call in with an update of what's going on at the Classic, but
yeah,
I'm excited. Tournament fishing, Monster Bass, Bassmaster Classic. It's going to be a blast. We'll do that next week.
All right. Well, we'll see everyone, or you'll see everyone next week, and then we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you're listening on all the other devices with the podcast, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch you in a week.
Later, everyone.